What's up guys, it's Alex here, your friendly reef dog. And today I'm going to talk you through the 3 most common types of algae magnets, and I'm going to give you my recommendations on which ones you should avoid and which ones you should get. Now I of course have a saltwater tank, but this applies equally to freshwater magnets too. And this is not a sponsored video, I bought all of these magnets myself, and I reckon I've had about 10 or 12 different types of algae magnet over the years, so I can confidently tell you which ones are good and which ones are bad. Now if it's your first time at the channel and you want weekly reefing goodness, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss out on anything. Right, let's get stuck in.
The first magnet I want to talk about is the one I see in shops more than any other, but I'm only including this magnet in the list so you know to avoid it at all costs. It is the mag float, which is a staple in freshwater tanks but also very common in marine tanks. They come in various sizes, and while the larger units are slightly more effective, they are all limited. Because they rely on a pad to clean algae, I've always found they only really work on the very light dusting of algae you get from day to day. So if you get any algae that's built up over the course of a week or so, the mag float will struggle, and you can forget about cleaning harder coralline algae with it. All of which means you'll end up reaching into your tank with a credit card to do the scraping for it. It's also susceptible to picking up grains of sand when you get close to the bottom of your tank, which will then scratch the glass. Although it's not all bad. As the name suggests, the wet side floats if it comes away from the glass, and the mag float is cheap, with the largest model costing only £20. But in my honest opinion, it's a waste of money, and once you've used either of the next two, you'll wonder how you ever got on with anything else. Next up then is the flipper cleaner. This comes in 3 sizes depending on how thick your glass is. I have the mid-range unit that's good for 12mm glass and cost me £40. It's a double-sided scraper with a pad on one side for day-to-day dustings and a blade on the other side for the tougher stuff. Now I have seen reports saying these scratch tanks, which I'd guess comes from using the pad side, which is another area that's a potential trap for grains of sand. I personally haven't had that problem, although I only ever use the scraper side, which has 2 ball feet at the bottom that angle the blade against the grass for better performance and lift the body off the glass, meaning it won't trap sand or gravel. The flipper's wet side also floats, so it's easy to reattach if it comes free from the glass. And it's called the flipper because you switch from pad side to scraper side by flipping the dry side round, which to be fair is pretty clever. The blade is stainless steel, so in theory it won't rust, and replacement blades are pretty cheap and supposedly should last 3 to 6 months. But in my opinion, the undisputed pound for pound champion is the Tunze Care Magnet. It doesn't have a pad, just a stainless steel blade, and that blade will munch through anything that gets in its way. It's equally good at chomping through the day-to-day stuff as it is the harder build-up of algae. And the difference between the Tunze and most other magnets is night and day. If you find cleaning algae off your glass to be a bit of a chore, you leave it. Then it gets harder to shift, so you leave it even more, then your tank looks rubbish. But you can afford to be lazy with a Tunze because it'll demolish algae no matter how long you let it build up. You can replace the blades if they go blunt, although I only did so after I'd had the magnet for about 2 years. It did make a difference with the tough stuff, but it was still absolutely fine before the change. It comes in various sizes, and the one I have is good for glass up to 15mm thick. My glass is 15mm thick, and the Tunze still grips very strongly indeed. They use neodymium magnets, which are the Rolls Royce of magnets, and I suspect that is part of what makes it so good. It costs less than £30 here in the UK, and at that price it is an absolute bargain and the single best value piece of equipment you will ever buy. And that's no exaggeration, I would happily pay 2 or 3 times that for an algae magnet as good as this. The Pico and Nano versions only have plastic blades, not metal, which I find personally to be much less effective. Although I have the Nano for my sump, and you can pimp it with a metal blade to make it more or less as effective as its bigger brothers. The day after I started writing this video, Tunze brought out a new version with a few upgrades. It now comes with the life jacket that makes the wet side float. I bought this as an optional extra recently, and I personally don't like it because it makes the magnets too big and isn't particularly easy to reattach when it comes free, and I've got used to moving the magnet around my tank without it slipping off anyway. But if you love a floater, you will absolutely love the life jacket, and if not, you can easily take it off. The upgraded version also has different coloured end caps, so you can either have blue, black, white or green for freshwater. Now there are loads of other options out there, including other magnets with scraper attachments and even scrapers on long sticks. But for me, this is just one area that Tunze has got absolutely nailed down, and I would guess the only reason anyone buys anything else is because they don't know how good the Tunze is.
Now I'd love to know which magnets you guys use, so let me know in the comment section below, and if you've got any questions, put them down there as well. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe for next week, and until next time, happy reefing.